Cynthia Ng, and on this episode of Vantage Point, we'll be talking about the startup ecosystem in Malaysia. Now, recently in the Budget 2013 announcement, the government has announced a couple of initiatives that could potentially boost the local tech startup scene. And there are two notable announcements. Firstly, we can now finally monetize intellectual property, whereby companies can now use their IPs as collateral to obtain funding from financial institutions. And the second initiative is to make angel investment more attractive by introducing tax write-off equaling to the amount invested by angel investors into a venture company. Now, what does this mean for our local entrepreneurs? We'll find out from our guest today. And next to me is Shamsul Jafni Shafi, or Sam. He's the co-founder of Pitchin, a crowdfunding platform. And next to him, we have Chris Leong. He's the head of Ideas Bank for commercialization in Cradle. Now, Cradle is a non-profit agency under the Ministry of Finance that provide early stage seed funding to entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for being on the show. Now, if I may, can go to Chris first.
Okay.
I remember we were texting each other during the budget, and you sound really excited about the announcement made, especially in regards to the angel investment incentives. How has the startup scene reacted to this announcement?
They are very excited because at the end of the day, getting early stage funding, getting money from investors is always difficult, and with any incentive, it will always be welcoming. And there's a lot of high net worth individuals in Malaysia that is looking for ways to reduce their tax income, and by investing, the way the policy works is that they want to attract more investment in startups rather than investing in property, making property prices very expensive. Now they have an option to invest in an entrepreneur that possibly can grow very far, very big, and create job opportunities for Malaysians.
But I mean, as you mentioned, Malaysian investors, they are more used to investing in traditional brick and mortar companies that has more tangible assets. Are we doing enough to encourage? I mean, we're at a very early stage, but what could further encourage these high net individuals to invest in startups?
This is one of the incentives that the government, I think, rightly exciting. I'm very excited that it was introduced. And one of the things I believe that will attract more investors will be to attract more deals for them. At the end of the day, incentive only works if there's a good deal, if there's a good company, if there's a good entrepreneur. And I think moving forward, what the government needs to do, or what we need to do as a whole, is to create more platforms for entrepreneurs to meet investors. And Pitchin can be one of the platforms, and I believe there are many clubs, angel clubs, or many networks where entrepreneurs can meet investors and they can pitch their ideas and vision to the investors.
Okay. Sam,
I'd like to touch point on what Chris mentioned just now. Again, we're excited about the announcement when the Prime Minister announced that in the last budget. What's interesting is that it now gives room for entrepreneurs here in Malaysia to actually try to reach out to these millionaires. I read somewhere that in Malaysia itself there are 36,000 millionaires here in Malaysia. Even if those 10% of those millionaires actually go into the tech world and look at the startups, keep in touch with some of the entrepreneurs out there, get to know them, and maybe they could actually see a lot of great ideas on the ground started up by Malaysian companies. And I think Chris also mentioned the fact that there's this divorce between entrepreneurs and angel investors, and someone needs to bridge that gap between the two of us. It could be Cradle, or it could be MDEC, it could be other government agencies, or it could be the community itself trying to get that bridge between entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean, we see that there are lots of initiatives taken by the local entrepreneurs to organize events, hack weekends, and all these initiatives. But we don't see enough, like you say, convergence between people from the agency, the government, and the basically public and private sector. There is still a gap. How do you propose that maybe to bridge this gap?
Part of Cradle's initiative is to also create more angel network. They are looking into the creation of Malaysian Business Angels Network, where if anyone who wants to form the angel club, or anyone who wants to look into where are all the angel clubs, they can go to a website and they can look into the places that they go to. At the end of the day, angel investment is a very risky venture for any investor. So information and support is needed. For example, if I want to invest in a deal, and if Sam trusts me enough, he will be trusting my judgment rather than the entrepreneur, because he knows me. He knows that I might not take calculated risk, and that trust and that relationship between me and Sam will also bring a traditional investor to invest in the tech world, because he knows someone. And in terms of convergence, I do agree that entrepreneurs do a lot in the community, but now we also need to have a convergence among investors, among tech investors, and that's very important.
But it seems that our high net worth individuals who invest, they tend to keep a rather low profile themselves.
Yes,
do you agree with that?
I agree with you. We're just reading a piece of news where someone actually pumped in 2 million ringgit to a local entrepreneur.
Yes.
And when asked for even comments, and this person just refused to say anything apart from just confirming that 2 million ringgit was passed, which is great. But if they're not accessible to entrepreneurs like us, like me, then that announcement may not be fruitful at all. So again, a lot of work needs to be done on the ground. And for me as an entrepreneur, and I've heard a lot of these discussions with investors, VCs and whatnot. When they invest in a company, they're not investing on the idea. They're investing on the person himself, on the group or the team. Because anyone can have a great idea, but it's the team, the people behind that idea who would execute that idea that's more important. So if we don't have that convergence, then it's difficult for the investors to actually pick out which particular entrepreneur they like.
Alright, I'd like to point out what Sam said. Ideas are a dime a dozen, and for you deal with investors. You are basically the middle person between investors and startups. So what are they looking for in investors? Okay, ideas, they have good ideas, but maybe it's the team, whether they have the consumer insights, whether they have good reading of market trend. What do investors look for in startups?
I think investors, the successful investors, what they look for is the founder, the promoter of the company. In a lot of cases, we have seen that a normal idea, if executed by an extraordinary founder, can be very successful. I think Brookesmore says Coupon by Joel is a very good example of a very passionate individual being able to turn a very normal business model, because Coupon is so many coupon companies, into a very profitable business. They need to be stubborn enough to stick on to their vision and stick on to the business, but they also need to be open enough to listen to ideas, to listen to opinions of others, so that they can change when need to. They can't just be stubborn and stick on and hope for the best, but they also need to be flexible in changing their business model.
I agree with Chris on that. And I remember having that discussion or talk with Naval Rifkan when he was here in Malaysia during Silicon Valley comes to Malaysia. And he told us outright that for you to have any chance of actually getting funded by angels or VCs in Silicon Valley, you need to be in the scene. You need to be there. You can't be there on a holiday, spend a week and then go back and hope that they'll come and after you in Malaysia. You need to be there. And that's the same model which I think works also in Malaysia. For angel investors to actually look out for good deals, they need to actually hang out with entrepreneurs. And again, we always joke around in our team at where do these angels hang out? Where do they lepak? We'd love to just drop by there and just hang out with them, because unless they get to know us, who we are, it's difficult for them to actually make a judgment call. And again, as you mentioned, Cynthia, ideas are dime a dozen. Everyone has ideas. You ask anyone on the street, they probably have a great idea, but execution is the big deal.
I'll have to take this discussion to the first commercial break, but like you mentioned earlier, angel investors will invest when they know you. They need a relationship, and you need to be there with them. So we'll talk about what kind of ecosystem does it take? Okay, we have the funding, we have the support, we have the ecosystem, but what more? Because we look at our neighbors down south who are perceived to have better funding, ecosystem and networking, and maybe we could try to learn maybe from them and also look at how Malaysia can leverage on our own opportunities. We'll go for the first commercial break. We'll see you shortly. Stay with us.
Yang ini Azlin. Tu neneknya. Mereka tak pernah bergaduh. Tapi lepas Azlin ingin memasak rendang dengan caranya sendiri, mengamuk nenek bukan kepala. Santan kotak Azlin pertaruhkan. Santan segar nenek percayakan. Santan segar yang diparut sendiri. Jadi tak heranlah kerana cinta pada masakan menyebabkan pakar-pakar masak ni bertelengkah. Demi cinta pada masakan. MasterChef Malaysia musim kedua setiap Sabtu hingga Khamis 9 malam di saluran-saluran berikut.
Penaja utama MasterChef Malaysia 2, Cooking Magic daripada Panasonic untuk masakan lebih enak dan mudah. Dan My Chef, the new gourmet experience.
Hi, you're still watching Vantage Point, and we are on the topic of our startup ecosystem. And recently, the government announced in the budget 2013 that we can now monetize intellectual property, whereby you can use your IP as collateral to obtain funding from banks. Now, 62% of corporate value of the world's publicly listed companies are now intangible assets. This means ideas, your business models, things like that. And we are still at the infancy stage because we are very new in the IP area. One of the problems that would occur, and the government is also trying to set up a fund, is to train more people how to evaluate value of intellectual property.
Yes.
For a person in the startup industry, how are they responding to this announcement? Are they enthusiastic about it?
Well, we are to an extent, and again, a great move by the government actually to introduce that. But again, you just highlighted also another interesting issue that we will face later, and probably be an interesting issue to actually try to solve, which is how do you value those kind of IPs? You know? And some of these IPs are quite are software. You know? How do you actually determine the value of a software which is similar to what is being done by your competitors? Would it devalue your own software where 2 or 3 other companies are doing the same thing or even more? So it's a good move for the government, and we still want to see how the government will actually try to address this issue, and how money will be passed over to entrepreneurs based on those software, those IP.
Maybe Chris can share with us, as let's say I'm a startup and I'm looking at this announcement, made good news like you say, but how am I going to prepare myself for this implementation?
I'm guessing that we need to look into what is the impact of the IP valuation. For example, if the 200 million was announced, it was given to Malaysian Debt Ventures to manage it. So a startup with a software, with some revenue from the software, can actually go to Malaysian Debt Ventures and say, I need some money to expand my business. And based on that, they can collateral that IP and say, this IP can be worth maybe 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, depending on the valuation of MTV. And based on that value, the appropriate loan can be given to the startup. And that's very exciting in a sense that it's definitely a new thing that we are doing. And I believe that the government wants to see or wants to show the traditional financial institution that this model can make money, and if that make money, it makes money and the banks are interested, then the banks can say, look, why don't we have a division that values IP? And the ripple effect can be big if it's successful.
Also, partly, I think this is a move in the right direction, especially we want to move up the value chain and knowledge-based economy. And we have been, there's always an alternative way of getting funding as well. And we've been hearing just earlier, before the break, we're talking about the ecosystem in our neighboring country, which is Singapore, and how they have better funding, better support ecosystem, low taxes to attract talent. Let's compare it to Malaysia a bit, and where do we stand in comparison, and what can we leverage on our opportunities that we have here, because we have a bigger market than Singapore, definitely.
Of course. I think I don't think Singapore has a better funding ecosystem in terms of early stage, because a lot more investors are there. But I won't say the ecosystem in Singapore is better. I say it's different, because if you look into, as an entrepreneur, will I advise them, will I go to Singapore to get funding? I think the answer is maybe, because the key question is, where's your customer? If your customer is in Malaysia, for you to set up your operations in Singapore to raise money and to be there will not be beneficial. Because at the end of the day, funding is only one component of a successful startup. The main criteria is, do you have customers? Is your customers happy with your product? And if you are far away, your customers in KL and you're in Singapore, can you serve them well? If you can't, then it's a problem. So I think that Malaysia is a bigger market. We have many different problems that is waiting to be solved, or there's many opportunities, and definitely.
So you're saying we should go local first instead of global?
I think depending on what kind of product you're doing. If your product is mainly on the cloud, and your customers, you're solving the needs of many people around the world, then of course you should be in a place where you are connected to people regionally, internationally, and Singapore can be a better place because of the huge expat community, a lot of regional HQ. But if you're looking into serving locals in Malaysia or the region, Malaysia might be a better environment to test, because at the end of the day, Singapore is not very similar.
Go big, go home, or
it's always interesting, Cynthia, this debate between where should the startup be? Should they be in Silicon Valley? Should they be in KL? Should they be in Singapore? Should they be in Mumbai? Should they be in Bangalore? Again, we have this debate among even entrepreneurs, even startups, where should we be? And I believe you should be where you are more comfortable at. You know? And if your idea and your business is good enough, it is good enough to go anywhere. So the reason why Silicon Valley is so successful is because there's this community that's built from ground up. It's become so matured that everyone looks at Silicon Valley for ideas, for investments and whatnot. Singapore has done well, as Chris mentioned, in saying that they started the funding process much more early than us. They came up with the tax exemptions for angels much more early than us, and that has given them some lead time. But I think we realize that, and I think that's where the government has stepped up and announced the budget, and we hope that effect, we will see the effect of it. And again, if you talk about community, 5 years ago, you hardly heard one in KL. Yes. But now, communities are starting up in Samajaya, in KL, in other parts of KL. So there is this community now. Now we need to get these angels on board.
Yes.
Start building up the communities. Get people talk about. Get the media to talk about. Sometimes hardly the media doesn't talk about it. Startup simulation. So we need to highlight some of the big wins here locally also. So I think we're going to going there, and that's why I don't really think that where we are is the most important question. Is having a good team, having a great product, and again, answering your question whether you should look at local and go global, I would say that from the start, you should look at global. Of course, you can start local, but then obviously your focus is always to go global, and it can always come from Malaysia. And we've seen 1 or 2 startups that's been doing that, starting from Malaysia.
Okay. Right, I have to go for the last commercial break, but When we come back, maybe we can talk a bit about the trend, mobile economy, and maybe we can also talk about where can we have market. We are right smack in the middle of half the world's population, so how can we leverage on that? We'll ask Sam and Chris after the break. Stay with us.
Setiap Ahad secara langsung, You Wartawan.
Bajet 2013, reaksi di kalangan orang muda.
Kenaikan pinjaman skim rumah pertamaku memang sangat membantulah.
I'm not so excited about this rebate because smartphone is not a necessity.
Kerajaan fokus kepada golongan yang paling bawah dalam piramid masyarakat Malaysia.
Orang kat Twitter, kat dalam Facebook, semua nak tahu tentang bajet 2013.
Diskusi dan interaksi bersama wartawan rakyat setiap Ahad 3.30 petang di Astro Awani. Berita segenap dimensi.
Hi, it's on Vantage Point, and we are talking about the startup ecosystem. And in Asia Pacific, with about 600 million population, we have a rising middle class that is also driving the e-commerce and mobile economy in this part of the world. Sam, with your interaction with newcomers in this industry, is this the area that they are looking into right now?
Oh, definitely. No, when a startup starts, the most obvious question that we receive is that people ask is that, are you in the web scene or in the mobile scene? Because everyone is saying that now you need to be on the mobile scene. Desktop is dead. Everything is on the mobile. So startups, if you look at the startup scene right now, most of these companies are looking at the mobile scene. Because again, as you rightly pointed out, you actually have 600 million potential customers waiting for you there. And if you get the right product with the right execution, you've got 600 million eyeballs to actually serve. So mobile is the next big thing, and that's why you see people like even Apple spending a lot of money in terms of mobile, tablets and whatnot. People are slowly moving away from desktop to mobile.
I think mobile is the big thing, especially in this part of the region, because if you look into Myanmar, Cambodia, Vietnam, mobile penetration rate is much higher than credit card penetration rate. And so if you look into buying things online, if you ask for a credit card, most likely if you're in Vietnam, you don't have a credit card to pay. You go to a debit card or you pay cash. So if anyone can solve the mobile payment issue, I think then there's a lot of opportunities for people to pay online to do that. And in Indonesia, I think mobile internet is they also have a higher penetration than internet. So a lot of people are using mobile phones to surf the web, to go on Facebook, to do things, and that's very exciting.
You said that recently there was this announcement of a smartphone-based mobile payment in Malaysia, MOL Cube, a mobile payment startup that allows SMEs to accept credit card and debit card as payments. I believe this is what you're mentioning, that e-commerce, e-payment, but people here are generally still not used to online payment. The trust is still not there when it comes to mobile money and mobile. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true, and I think it's placed to people's mind. But if you think about it, giving your credit card to this restaurant server who then takes your credit card and swipes it in the room, and you don't know what's happening with your credit card. I think that's more of a security issue there compared to say mobile payment or even e-commerce, and the risk that people go through are actually risk which the banks and the e-commerce sites have actually factored in. So it's probably of more mindset, and you probably need to educate people about the security. But if you ask me, and again, as I was previously a DPP, a prosecutor myself, and I dealt with a lot of credit card frauds, I can tell you it's probably more dangerous for you to give to a stranger your credit card. Compared to say going online.
That's true.
And many people don't actually realize that.
That's right. Yeah.
I think it's a perception. I don't know whether the perception is true when people are reluctant to pay online, because if you look into AirAsia, Golden Screen, GSC mobiles, people pay using mobile credit card. That's right. And if you look into Groupon as well, I think Groupon there's more than 1 million subscribers, and people are willingly paying money online, either via Maybank to you or via credit card. That's a good trend. And these three guys, these three big players, are actually helping the ecosystem because they are educating the consumers that you can pay online, you can use your credit card or use your Maybank to you or debit card online, and it's safe. And that's very important.
So we're getting there, but maybe a bit slowly, but we are getting
sooner
there. Okay.
And Cynthia, you mentioned recently that local outfit mall and also soft space, right?
Yes.
So they got funded from an angel for 2 million. Would this angel qualify for that exemption, Chris?
I have no idea.
Okay. Again, it's a start from Malaysia, and I think they're following what the US is doing with Square.
Square, right.
And again, what they're doing is actually excites me. Although I'm not playing the mobile payment area, but what they're doing actually helps me as a startup, as an entrepreneur. Because if they can actually solve that issue, then it'll be easy for me to actually then get my customers to actually then do e-commerce, do their transactions over the internet.
To get more people online, trusting the system that's in place. I have about 2 minutes left. Maybe I can ask this final question. We always compare ourselves to Silicon Valley because Silicon Valley is the maker for anything tech, geek and money, right? Maybe we cannot copy it fully, but what do you think fits the Asian model?
We're very strong in community, and that's one thing which we're missing right now in Malaysia. The community, when I say community, it's not really a community of entrepreneurs. A community of entrepreneurs, startups, government bodies, and also, most importantly, the angels and the VCs.
Yes.
So that's what I wish can be replicated faster here in Malaysia.
I think to start to become a community like Silicon Valley, everyone plays a part. The media, Astro Awani plays a big part, of course, to highlight success stories of our entrepreneurs, and also any buyers, any procurement officers. There's a bad perception that if it's a Malaysian product, it's not good, and that's killing most of our startups.
That's
and
right,
as a Malaysian or as a business owner, your part to help the ecosystem is to, okay, I'm not asking you to buy them, but at least take a look at them, give them a fair chance, and not penalize them because they are Malaysian. And that's one thing that we should, everyone should do.
That's right.
Yeah, so success stories. We need success stories from startups, and also we want to know who are these high net worth individuals who want to invest.
That's right.
Okay, that's all the time that we have on Vantage Point today. Thank you for watching. I also like to thank Sold Out on Jalan Ampang for hosting us today and for giving us this delicious drinks. And we'll see you again on the next episode of Vantage Point. If you have any questions, please drop me an email at cynthia_ng@astro.com.my, or you can go on our Facebook or Twitter at Astro Awani. That's all, and goodbye. Thank you, Sam.